Um, Last time, just to have a recap. So last time we decided we would do a short story about a couple that is in a fall off. So one of them is getting tired or annoyed with the other one. We decided we wanted a bit of fiction in it. So we added that has an item, he finds an item. I think we had decided through uh, the deaths of someone, he gets this item where is he get this item that permits him to read thoughts, but this item would not distinguish thoughts between um, secrets, between fantasies, and all that. So there would be misinterpretation, conflict between the two on that front. I thought of something between last time and now that I never took note of, but could be interesting, which is the love language that maybe we could talk about for each of these of the characters, Mary and Victor. So, what is the love language? Well, I did a bit of research. Let me change this a bit, and I thought it was a concept, a psychological concept of some kind, but it actually comes from a book written by Gary Chapman in the 90s, 1992, where it talks about five five different ways where partners, people show affection, right? So there's words of affirmation, it's compliments, praises. So someone that says a lot. I love you. You're great. It's all about the verbal appreciation, quality time. So maybe it's more about spending time with your significant other, and so meaning, let's say they go out into the woods to do some camping. Well, it's the activity that counts, right? Receiving gifts, someone that just constantly wants to, well, constantly, not constantly, but you know, it this way of is to find something, and let's say it's the person that will find a rock in a heart shape and will give it to the partner, and having a special representation, or they have this special candle from their first date, right? That was at the restaurant. They stole it, whatever. It's all about make giving gifts that represents their love, basically. Acts of service. So that's for like it's sort of a way. It's like a way of giving, doing small things for the other one. For example, if the person goes in the kitchen to, I don't know, make some sandwich or whatever, we'll make a second sandwich for his or her partner, right? Or we'll make a glass of water, and small show of appreciation, more so than saying it or making this big bombastic maybe arrangements. And there's the physical touch, someone that really needs the that really needs the physical touch. So meaning holding hands. So maybe uh, petting the arm. Stuff like that. This looks like a perspective rather than a descriptive interpretation. Am I right? Well, it's all based off, like I said, this book that were was written in the 90s, and that, like, I've searched through multiple websites, and they all refer back to these five touch. Like, there hasn't been a new interpretation of this, really. And so when it comes to notes, uh, it's perfect because notes are just guidelines, right? So if we want to define something, maybe it would be an interesting way to define if they both have different kinds of love language. This could be another way to bring, you know, another way to bring conflict, or that the other one doesn't understand what he's doing wrong, right? Because they have different ways of showing this love. So just for the fun of it, like I've never myself put this in like writing notes, but I was thinking of this, that it could be an interesting thing for this story with, because it's all about this, right? Since she's working so hard, maybe she likes quality time, maybe, right? To Since she's dreaming of having more than what she currently have, maybe she doesn't have enough quality time with Victor, right? So this could be this could be one way. And so for Victor, he's an extrovert, says what's on his mind. So verbal would be a very good one, I think. In the end, having these notes is all about, building. It doesn't mean everything will be in the story. It just means it helps you build the story, right? Human. How can you make sure that all the attributes you add to a character preserve its psychological coherence? Oh, that's a very good question. And I think it's just a question of knowing your character. It's a question of how how real and how close to the truth you really want to make it. So there's a part of it, I think, that is how much you know your character, his backstory, and all that. But I think you want to make, let's say, something very realistic, for that you want to explore a certain trauma, or something like that. You might want to do some research, let's say, with either through psychological papers and science that's been done behind this, or just even through victims of what you're exploring, right? So really, the key, I think, word for this is knowledge on your subject, knowledge on your characters, on all that. But it's a very good question. I think a lot of people struggle with it. A lot of people are try to, because they can't. It's hard to define, really, and you sort of see it sometimes in stories, right? Where there's some stuff that happens in a scene, and it sort of goes contrary to what it was pre-established with the character in the story. And often when that happens is because the author, in his in his or her mind, have these characters, they've set up something, but they have this really cool scene, for example, that they have in their head. So I'll give myself, for example, on one of the books that I'm writing, where I have this character that has a serial killer background, right? I have a scene that affects this character, and I had this whole great scene in my head where she would start crying and all of that. But in the end, it sort of went against the character and her behavior to such situation, and I sort of realized it by rewriting through it. Right when I was rewriting through it, I sort of realized, actually this character would not be like that, ob- objectively. So I think you really have to look at it multiple times and know your characters, and sort of have the cool, like, look at the cool scene you want to do, but also try to separate your view and try to put your character's view instead on it, I would say, I think. I'm going to read through this and very quickly, and I'm going to put this link in description as well. So, for the point of view, basically, point of view is how you use the camera, how you follow through the story, right? So the first person point of view. In the first person narration, the narrator is a person in the story, telling the story from their own point of view, which means will usually be pretty biased, right? Biased through the emotions, through memories, through the person of what the background of that person. The narration utilizes the pronoun I or we. The narrator is speaking as part of a group. The character who tells the story might be in the middle of the action or more of a character who observes the action from outer limits. But in either case, you are getting that character's recounting of what happened. It also means that impressions and descriptions are colored by that character's opinion, mood, past experiences, or even their warped perception of what they see and hear. Now, there are examples here that they're talking about, so I'll just skip right away to second person, which is the most interesting one because I don't think I've read second person before or I've never used it myself. So, second person narration is a little used technique of narrative in which the action is driven by a character ascribed to the reader, one known as you. The reader is immersed into the narrative as a character involved in the story. The narrator describes what you do and lets you into your own thoughts and background. The most well-known piece of fiction that employs second person narration might be J. McClerney's novel Bright Lights, Big City. So basically, you're part of the story, and the narrator says what you should feel. Says basically uses you as the character, right? Well, third person. In third person narration, the narrator exists outside the events of the story and relates the actions of the characters by referring to their names or by the third person pronouns he, or they. Third person narration can be further classified into several types: omniscient, limited, and objective. Third person omniscient. Omniscient means all knowing. Likewise, an omniscient narrator knows every character's thoughts, feelings, and motivations, even if the characters doesn't reveal any of those things to other characters. The story is not told from the point of view of, okay, this is about the example. Here's the thing with the omniscient though. Be very careful about, you don't want to do what is called head hopping, right? Which is constantly change which point of view go through. So in a scene, so let's say you're a main character, secondary character, etc., because you will lose the reader. Reader won't know who the main character is, who the we are supposed to follow, all of that. So usually follow. It's better to stick with one or a couple. Or there are ways around that. For example, I'm for the novel I'm currently writing, Inexistent from the Ashes of War. I have a team of spies, right? So I have around 4 characters, and every chapter I change the main character. You follow the emotions and thoughts, which is a good way to not do head hopping. In third person limited, third person limited narration, the narrator still exists outside the events of the story, does not know the motivations or thoughts of all the characters. Rather, one character is the driver of the story, and the reader is given a closer peek into that character's psyche than the others. But I think that's basically what I was talking about just before. So, third person objective would be in third person objective narration, the narrator reports the event that take place without knowing the motivations or thoughts of any of the characters. We know little about what drives them until we hear them speak, observe their actions. The resulting tone is often matter of fact, not colored by any opinions or commentary, nor of knowledge of what it takes place outside the scene.